Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new. Today we're going to do a little bit of dodgy DIY. So I want to build an outdoor kitchen. I've just recently spent the last few weeks replacing all of the balcony finishes here. We had tiles. Because of the weather, they had cracked. So we're replacing with composite decking, which is all cool. That's another story. But what I want to do is build an outdoor kitchen. But the reason why I'm going to make this video is because I want to do it in such a way that it's treated like a bathroom. It's going to be a fully waterproof kitchen, built from cheap materials from Bunnings, nothing fancy, but this does cop a lot of weather, rain, sun, you name it, it'll come through here. So I want to build it in such a way that I'll have confidence that this will last 10 years or more, no issues at all. I'm going to factor in drainage, I'm going to factor in waterproofing. So basically just like a bathroom would be considered a wet area. Falls on the granite bench tops, so water can run off, especially in the barbecue area, cabinetry. So I'll take you through the whole build, just something different, and enjoy. Let's go. So of course, first thing is we've got to go and buy all the crap that we probably don't need, but will make the life a little bit easier. So Vivor, great site, picked up the black stainless door inserts, which are going to make life easy. We've got our glass door fridge. Not expecting miracles out of this. It's going to be outside. I'm not going to make slushies. If I can keep some beer cold, I'll be happy. 3-burner beef eater barbecue, recessed in. Great value, only $500. I'll go through the cost of the whole project at the end, if anyone cares. Got our tap. Got our sink in black chrome, waterproofing. Some nice little outdoor power points, which I think are quite neat. They look quite nice out there. Some specialised tools I didn't have before, so I'm going to be working with stone. So stone grinding pads to bevel off the edge after I cut them. A little handheld wet saw and a couple of spare blades. Outside of that, I'll show you in a second, we've got our bench tops and some other materials which I'm going to use. So that's the gist of what I had to buy. There's one more door coming, should arrive today or tomorrow. And I'll start by opening up the barbecue, taking some firm measurements off that. There were some specs on the website, but I reckon you should always check that first so I can start to frame it out. That's about it, so we'll get into the project. Starting from the bottom, there's a few little details that I've made. On the actual wall off the balcony, there is a small 40mm gap, so the wall doesn't actually sit on the balcony. Reason why I've done that, I want to be able to hose through, I want to be able to blow through any dust, waste, and just have general airflow there. So I've got some Eco Deck plank, and I've glued 2 pieces together. That's going to form my feet. They're going to run along the base. On top of that, I'm lucky enough to have a neighbour that's a form worker. So he's brought me some F17 hardwood form ply face film. This stuff's very resilient to weather. It's not going to see any direct weather. I'm going to have a steel frame basically on top of that, for example. And our fibro sheets will come down and sit just past the bottom of that plywood. So that will be sealed. Shouldn't see any weather on the end grain. I will, however, paint those just to be safe. And this will be waterproofed and painted and sealed and whatnot. So that's basically the gist of the construction. Now it's just a matter of getting into it and doing it. So we'll start by doing our base, setting that right, getting it level, checking our measurements to the top where my splashbacks will be. I don't want to build up and end up with a funny size splashback. I want to work backwards and have my 300mm deep splashbacks. So we'll set that up and get going. Going through, I've marked out my centers for the feet. They're going to sit slightly backwards, which will give us a slight effect of the bench will be floating. Now it's going to work out how to drill, screw those without putting holes in the table. So we'll get onto that. What I need to do now is actually measure down for my splashback. I want to have a consistent 300mm strip running through there from the top of my bench height, so I get a perfect 600 by 300 tile. The reason why that's important is because there's a fall on this balcony running down that way and actually slightly this way. And over the 3100mm long bench, there's a 15mm variance. So it's going to actually open up a little bit as it goes along, or sorry, closes up. So I'm going to have to, in the actual cabinets, slightly kick those to adjust there. So I'll make some reference marks and we'll go from there. I'm using my Zito laser and shooting across here so I can get my line for my splashback. And I got to say, I am not convinced on green lasers. I recently had to buy a new laser. My old red one died, and I'm not liking the green at all, to be honest. But anyway, my problem. So the weather's cleared up a little bit, which is really good, which means I can get back into it. So off camera, I've installed the base, just basically sat it down there, squared it all up. It just sits there, it's basically floating. As I build the structure, it will then get pinned against the wall. So I'll start framing it out, and we'll go from there. Now I've got a couple of uprights in position. I'm going to run our top channel on. I am going to run the full length first and then mark out where the barbecue recesses will go, put verticals in and then cut it. I'm just feel more confident doing that than trying to build a three-dimensional frame first. I think this is be an easier, more accurate way of doing it if you're only got the skills that I have. So we'll do that. The next step I'm going to do is actually set my final height, put some screws in, check this for level, check this for fall. I do have a slight amount of fall coming this way, so any water coming through, pooling on the granite bench top should flow off and fall down the front and hopefully through the gaps or out the back. So I'm going to do that, which will be a little bit of stuffing around. I'll do that off camera because I'm going to be a little wild with that. Well, it's a new morning and it's freaking cold, but I want to try to smash out a heap of this framing today, maybe even start to put some skin on it. Yesterday afternoon I went ahead and started to put some more structure into this. This is where the barbecue is going to be sitting down. I had to do a fair bit of planning to work out exactly the tolerances on the barbecue. There's only about a 5mm buffer it gives you, so I am going to cut those rails out, but I wanted to leave them in there while I stuff everything out and sort of brace it all up, and then I'll cut those, and by then it should be all nice and structurally sound. Everything else is going to plan. The base looks good. The floating effect looks pretty good from the bottom down here. You can see that. I've also had to remember to pre-run my LED strip light, which is going to run up the side here behind the splashbacks and be recessed into the, I guess you call that whatever that would be up here, the top plate, or bulk it all the way along there. That's a 10-meter run. I didn't realise that LED light, so I think I might be able to go along, which will backlight the whole bench. I might be able to run it under it and actually run it under the bottom and have some lighting under that floating effect as well, which I think will look quite smart. So I'll get into it, and that's my day. I've jumped ahead a little bit. Quite frankly, I was having a shit time with this framework, but like I said earlier, if I would have built square sections like a normal framing situation, screw those together, it would have been better. I've kept the long 3-metre rails to cut out my sections afterwards, which I'm about to do. But in hindsight, I probably should have spent the time and built the square frames all together and pinned them. So I'll cut this through now. That's my barbecue recess, and this is my smoker recess. Thanks, mate. Perfect timing.
Yeah, I call it.
Yeah, thank you.
So, have a good
Ciao.
night.
Third door just arrived. All right. So I finally finished off the framing. That's pretty much the carcass of the whole build. So on the left here, there's a single door going down the bottom. Sink will be up there. I've cut the penetration for the pipe, which is a bit scary going through a new deck. Anyway, fridge in there, barbecue recess with double doors underneath, smoker recess, double doors underneath, small bench between the smoker and the barbecue. I've left this little gap here open. Down the track I might be able to cut that out and put a slide out bin or something like that if I find one that's handy enough. That's how we're looking. So tomorrow I can do the sheeting and then start to look at the bench tops. We have another beautiful morning. Sun's actually finally shining now, which is great. Look at that. No more rain and clouds. I can paint without stressing. Today I'm going to start sheeting off. So all the carcass is obviously all done. I've ripped down the sheet, a 3-metre long sheet to 880, which will give me my floating edge on the bottom. If we can see down here. So we've got about an inch gap there. And then I've clamped it on and come on the inside and just traced out my lines. So if I pull that back, you'll see my Nico mark. Got the doors done, every door all the way through. I've also made a little rest for the fridge, which will sit on there, which I'll sheet off shortly. And I've also painted the bottom. Another little detail I did, it's a bit dusty at the moment, but I also painted the little lip there, so when you open the door, you'll see the monument colour coming through. So I'll get on to cutting that sheet now. I've done all my cutouts and got the missus to help me carry it up, and of course I snapped it on the end, so I'm going to cut that flush and make a square piece that goes through there to tie that up. I probably could get away with just putting some filler over that, but I'll do a straight cut and do the right thing. So now pretty much I'm going to put some adhesive behind it, just a little bit of Sika, and screw that off. Fix up my stuff up there, sheet off the back, the end piece there, and the fridge base, and then we can start looking at the top. Okay, here we got a little base for our fridge. A little flashing on each side, so that if you're looking, if there is a gap and you look down the side of the fridge, you won't see the inside of the cabinet. A little bit of smoke and mirrors. So I've just done a test fit of all the doors. Everything seems to fit nice, and double checked my measurement for the fridge. That's all looking happy. I've cut an oversized hole for the sink because the actual final cut will be obviously in the stone. Tops are all siliconed and or Sikaflexed and screwed on, just to give us a nice firm base. I'm about to waterproof and then paint the front, remove the doors, paint the front, and then cut the stone, and that's nearly the job done. Fit the barbecue, and the smoker's on order, so that should be here in a few days. Let's get to the waterproofing. Just setting up to do the waterproofing. I like I've got a cameraman now. He doesn't speak. Silence. Okay, waterproofing time. I'm going to wet down all the corners and then run tape in. So I've done a bit of fiberglassing in my time. I kind of treat it just like that. So wet the area. So once this is all fully membraned, we now have a bit of a structural seal between the bench top and the splashback. So I'll go ahead and do all the rest. So here we go, this is the finished result. Everything's waterproofed, ready to go. I'm actually quite excited because now I'm starting to see the end of this project, which is good. So I'm seriously getting over it. The face will be painted tomorrow, face and the side, down the end here. The stone bench tops will be cut, put in position, they'll just be siliconed on or Sikaflexed on. The sink will be cut out of the stone, the tap and the penetration for the gas line for the barbecue will go somewhere around there. And then once they're fitted, I'll just tile up the splashbacks and it's a finished job. Another cracking day, yeah. Alright, so I got my mate Luch, the renderer, good old bloke, friends for how long? 40 years.
Yeah.
Since I knew him since he was in grade 5.
Same.
And he looked the same beard, everything. Look at that, the same beard and shit. Okay, cutting the stone today. So we at Bunnings picked up this little saw. It's a wild boar wet saw. So it runs a little hose which you fit into your tap. So it feeds water while you're cutting. So you should see some dripping out there. It's been going through quite easily. This is quartz, but it cuts pretty much straight through. It's quite impressive actually. And then with these pads, we're just beveling off the edges. So I've just done this edge here, and there's a slight, where's my camera? Over here. A slight 45-degree bevel just along there, so it makes it a bit nicer on the finger. we have cut most of them. I'll quickly run up here and so we're starting to position them on. And these are our verticals. So it's coming together quite nicely. The barbecue recess is done. Obviously this needs to be siliconed on. And we've just cut this top here. And now we're going to do the main one, which is the large one with the sink cut out, which we're nervous about because we have broken a few of these. There's a bit of a resin crack in them and it makes them a little bit weaker in some spots. So we've got one piece left and we can't fuck it up. Let's go for it. Beautiful. All right. We've marked out our sink. That's the one. So we centralised it, put tape around it because we want to obviously mark the bench. Took that off, come in 20 mil all the way around, and we're going to drill corner holes and then do a plunge cut and cut out the sink now. This is our last piece, so we can't stuff this one up. We'll have a good crack and hopefully it'll work, and we've got to position our tap as well and drill a hole for our tap. Another little update. We've all the stone tops are fitted. I'm ready to do the splashbacks, which I'll do if I get some time tomorrow. One thing I did stuff up, well not stuff up, but hard to see. You can see the tape lines from the waterproofing even after I've painted 2 coats. I'm not really happy with that. As you can see it actually there. So what I'm deciding to do is bagging it. So I'm going over that coat and probably have a bit more of a Mediterranean kind of a feel to this. I'll repaint it again. That's that coat there drying, so it'll just give it a little bit of texture and hide all of those waterproofing tape marks. I'll just show you how I'm doing that. So I just went and got a bag of Dunlop render. It's got pretty good adhesive properties to it. And this basically with a sponge, going little circular motions, trying not to have too much build-up. Just dabbing it in. If anyone was watching this going, man, what's he doing? I'm sorry if I offend you, but I know no better. Our next step is sealing the bench top. I want to get this done before I do any work in that back area, so I'm using just a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. It'll dry very fast. And remove any dust material from the cutting and grinding and stuff. I think that's ready to go. From Bunnings. some stone benchtop sealer. I believe this is designed for kitchen benches, so I'm assuming it's going to have some sort of food stability, safety or whatever.
Lately? I haven't heard a peep out of you. You smell, has he just had a bath?
Was all the time. Not your red one, but your yellow one.
And now I'm going to feel this tiny little crack between our bench top and our side here, whatever that is. There's a little 1 or 2 mil seam along there I want to seal up because I want this whole thing, as I mentioned, to be fully watertight. It's probably over the top watertight, but this is an old trick I learned when I was building cold rooms. Run a little bit of tape either side of your silicone join if it's a really fine one. The ones down here I've just done by hand, but these little fine ones there, they just need a little bit more care. So I'm just going to very gently pump a little bit in there. I've cut the nozzle so fine it barely even comes out. Oh, if it does, it's all over the shop. Oops. Oops. Okay. A little lick on the finger, run it across. Just remove the tape. That's how you get a nice little silicone bead. Well, here we are, guys. This is the finished result. I'm pretty happy, to be honest. It's come out really well with the budget, come out really well with the finished product. We have had a lot of rain coming through over the last few days, so this has all been getting very wet. And to its credit, inside the cabinets are perfectly 100% dry, which is really cool. So that means all the waterproofing's worked, all the falls have worked. We are having aluminium shutters put in here. We're ordering them from overseas, so they're going to be about a month or so away. So in the meantime, it is going to get a lot of weather, but I'm perfectly satisfied with that being in the weather. The smoker's in place, so we've got our Vivo upright charcoal smoker. If you know my channel, you know I build a lot of smokers and things like that. So this is probably the first time I've actually bought a smoker, but I just didn't have the time, and I thought it's relatively cheap. The cabinetry underneath, so that's where the coal will live. Obviously we've got all our bench tops on. LED lighting looks absolutely amazing behind here. That is RGB, so we can change colors to whatever we want. Everything's powered up. I have a 3 button switch here. I don't know what the technical term is, but I can turn my fridge on and off via this switch, so I don't have to be reaching under the cabinets and actually trying to pull out a PowerPoint. Our fridge is down here working fine. Beer is absolutely cold. On the rainy weather though, we do get a bit of fog on the screen, but during the day that's not an issue. Plumbing's all done. We've got beautiful water here, hot and cold, plumbed in. Now, I mentioned we'd talk about the budget, so this versus a pre-bought thing from Bunnings or wherever it may be, this is 3.1 meters long, so firstly it's longer than most of them. We do have, I guess, it's a more structural than a tin box that you would just put here with a barbecue on it. The big ticket items were the smoker at around 500, the barbecue was around 500, the stone tops were around 400, fridge was only under 200, sink and tap about 200. So pretty much the whole thing came in with all materials, screws, glues, silicones, paint, just under $3 grand. So I'm pretty happy with that. $3 grand can't buy you much in this space, especially with stone tops and the finishes that we have. So there you go, guys. Very simple, easy project. Now, I'm not a tradesman. In fact, I'm a hairdresser by trade. So if I can do this, you guys can do this. So get into it, and love to hear your feedback. See you guys.